What happens when a pregnant daughter comes home on Mung 2 and her mother still checks her face like she's a little girl? Hello, everyone. Wishing you a peaceful and beautiful day. Today, we'll step into a tender Mung 2 Tet, where Linda returns to her parents' home, not just as a wife-to-be mother, but as someone's beloved daughter. If this story touches your heart, don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss our next warm and meaningful episode. Morning arrives softly on Mung 2, light slipping through the curtains in a pale gold wash. Linda is already awake, sitting on the edge of the bed with one hand resting over her very pregnant belly. The baby moves slowly, a steady roll beneath her palm, and she breathes through it with quiet patience. Kwang comes out of the bathroom, drying his hands. He pauses when he sees her like that, small against the wide morning, carrying so much. "Did you sleep?" he asks gently. "A little," she answers. "They were practicing kicks at 3 a.m. He smiles and walks toward her. Without making a big gesture out of it, he kneels down and helps her slip on her shoes. His movements are careful, unhurried. He doesn't treat her like she's fragile. He treats her like she's precious. Linda watches him, her eyes soft. "You don't have to do that every time." "I know," he says. "I want to." He stands, adjusts the collar of her ao dai, then smooths the fabric over her belly as if greeting the baby himself. "Today you just relax," he murmurs. "You're going home." The words settle deep inside her. The drive is slower than usual. Outside, the city feels festive but calmer than yesterday. Families move along the sidewalks in bright clothes, children holding red envelopes, older couples walking arm in arm. Flower stalls still line the streets, the air touched with the scent of blossoms and incense. Linda leans back in her seat, one hand on her belly, the other resting near Kwang's on the console. "I always loved Mung 2, she says quietly. "No matter how busy I was, I would go home. Mom would pretend she didn't expect me, but she always cooked my favorite dishes." Kwang glances at her. "What's your favorite?" "Anything she makes," Linda replies, then laughs softly. "But especially the simple things. Soup, braised pork, things that taste like childhood." He nods. "Then today, you don't have to be anyone's daughter-in-law. Just be her daughter." Linda turns toward him, surprised by how much she needed to hear that. When they arrive, her mother opens the door almost immediately, as if she's been waiting behind it. The moment she sees Linda, her expression shifts. Relief, love, and something close to tears. "Converoy," her mother says, stepping forward and wrapping her arms carefully around Linda's shoulders. Linda leans in, breathing in the familiar scent of her mother's house. For a second, she forgets the weight of the world outside. She is simply a daughter who has come home. Her father appears behind her mother, his posture straight but his eyes warm. He looks at Linda first, taking in her face, then her belly, then at Kwang. "Happy New Year," Kwang says respectfully, bowing his head slightly. Her father nods. "Happy New Year. Bring her inside. Don't let her stand." Inside, the house feels exactly the same as it always has. Modest, warm, filled with small details that hold years of memory. The altar glows softly. A pot simmers in the kitchen. The air smells like tea and food and something comforting that has no name. Her mother quickly arranges a cushion on the sofa. "Sit here, lean back, feet up if you need." "Mom, I'm fine," Linda protests automatically, but she sits anyway. Kwang lowers himself beside her, not crowding, but close enough that his knee brushes hers. His hand rests lightly at the small of her back, a steady support. He doesn't announce it. He just stays there. Her mother brings tea and presses the warm cup into Linda's hands. "You look thinner," she says, frowning. "I'm pregnant," Linda laughs. "I can't possibly be thinner." Her mother studies her face carefully, like she used to when Linda was a child with a fever. "You're tired," Kwang speaks up gently. "She didn't sleep much last night. The baby was active." Her mother's gaze shifts to him. Not sharp, not suspicious, just measuring. "Does she eat enough?" "I make sure she does," Kwang answers honestly. And I remind her to rest, even when she pretends she doesn't need it. Linda nudges him lightly. You make me sound stubborn. You are, her mother says immediately, and all three of them laugh. At the dining table, the food is simple but abundant. Steam rises from bowls of soup. Plates are filled before Linda can reach for anything. Her mother keeps placing small portions in front of her. Eat slowly, she reminds her. Kwang watches the exchange quietly. There's something deeply moving about seeing the woman he loves being cared for by someone who has known her since birth. He sees the way Linda's shoulders loosen here, the way her voice softens. Halfway through the meal, Linda pauses and presses her hand to her belly. The baby shifts again, stronger this time. She inhales, steady but tired. Kwang notices immediately. You okay? He asks under his breath. She nods. Just stretching. Her mother is already on her feet. Do you need to lie down? I'm fine, Mom, Linda says, though her eyes close briefly as she rides out the movement. Kwang's hand moves instinctively to support her back. It's such a natural gesture that he doesn't realize her parents are watching. Her father sets down his chopsticks. You nervous? He asks Kwang suddenly. Kwang meets his gaze. About becoming a father? Yes. Good, her father replies. Kwang looks slightly surprised. Men who aren't nervous, her father continues calmly, don't understand the responsibility. Silence settles over the table, but it's not heavy, it's thoughtful. I don't want to fail her, Kwang says quietly, glancing at Linda. Her mother's expression softens at that. She's not easy, she says gently. She worries alone. She says she's fine even when she isn't. Linda rolls her eyes. You're telling him all my secrets? I'm helping him love you better, her mother answers. Kwang looks at Linda, really looks at her. Then I'll learn, he says. I'll learn her face. Linda's throat tightens unexpectedly. Later, in her old bedroom, her mother sits beside her on the bed. The walls are the same color. The small bookshelf still stands in the corner. Are you happy? Her mother asks softly. Linda nods without hesitation. Yes. Are you scared? This time she hesitates. A little. I don't know if I'll be a good mother. Her mother reaches out and smooths her hair back like she did years ago. You're already worrying about it. That's a good sign. Linda laughs weakly. That's your logic? It's mother logic, she says. In the living room, Kwang stands with her father near the window. Take care of her, her father says, not demanding, just stating a truth. I will, Kwang answers, not just because she's my wife, because she's your daughter. Her father nods once. That is enough. When it's time to leave, her mother holds Linda's hands a little longer than necessary. Come home whenever you feel tired, she says. This door doesn't close. On the drive back, Linda leans her head against Kwang's shoulder. I forgot what it feels like, she whispers. What? To just be someone's child. Kwang presses a gentle kiss to her hair. You can be that, he says, and still be the mother of my child. Linda smiles, eyes closing as the car moves slowly through the fading afternoon light. One hand rests over her belly, the other holds his. Between them, in the quiet hum of the road, love feels steady. Not dramatic, not loud, just enough. The afternoon light turns softer as they drive home. The city is still dressed in red and gold, but the noise has quieted. Linda keeps her head resting against Kwang's shoulder, eyes half closed, one hand curved protectively over her belly. Too much today? He asks gently. A little, she admits, but the good kind. He nods. He understands that kind of tired, the one that comes from being loved. When they reach home, Kwang parks carefully and turns off the engine. For a moment, neither of them moves. The silence inside the car feels full, like something sacred has just happened. I liked how your mom looks at you, he says quietly. Linda opens her eyes. How? Like she's still memorizing you. Linda swallows. always done that, even when I thought she wasn't paying attention. Kwang smiles faintly. Now I know why you notice everything. Inside the house, the air feels cooler than at her parents' place. Kwang helps Linda out of her shoes again, guiding her to the sofa before she can protest. I can walk by myself, she mutters. I know, he replies, kneeling in front of her. But let me. There is something deeply intimate about small acts repeated without drama. Linda leans back and exhales slowly. The baby shifts again, firmer this time. She presses her lips together. Kwang sees it instantly. Stronger? Yeah. She breathes in, then out. They're practicing for something. He moves closer, one hand resting lightly on her belly. Hey, he murmurs softly. Give your mom a break. The baby responds with another roll, almost as if in answer. Linda laughs, the sound lighter now that they are alone. See? Stubborn. Just like you, he teases. She reaches for his hand and threads her fingers through his. The house feels different tonight. Quieter, but not empty. The echo of her mother's embrace still lingers on her skin. After a while, Kwang stands and heads into the kitchen. I'll warm some milk, he calls out. Doctor's orders. Linda watches him from the sofa, her gaze thoughtful. She thinks about the way her father had looked at him, the way her mother had studied his every word. It hadn't felt like judgment. It had felt like handing something precious over. When Kwang returns, he sits beside her and hands her the warm cup. He waits until she takes a few small sips before speaking again. Your dad asked if I was nervous, he says. Linda smiles faintly. And? I told him yes. Good answer. He nods slowly. He said it's good to be scared. Linda's eyes soften. He doesn't talk much, but when he does, it matters, Kwang finishes. They sit in silence for a moment, the quiet stretching comfortably between them. Kwang, Linda says after a while. If one day I get overwhelmed, promise you won't let me hide it. He turns fully toward her. What do you mean? I've always been the one who says I'm fine, she admits softly. Even when I'm not. Mom said that today. Kwang studies her face carefully, as if already practicing what he promised earlier. Then I won't believe you right away, he says gently. I'll check your eyes. Linda feels tears prick unexpectedly. Not dramatic tears, just the kind that come when someone understands you without needing a long explanation. You're going to be a good father, she whispers. He exhales slowly. I hope so. You already are, she replies, guiding his hand back to her belly. You're here. The baby kicks, firm and undeniable. Kwang's expression changes, wonder mixed with disbelief. That's real, he murmurs. Very real, Linda smiles. Evening settles around them. Somewhere in the distance, faint laughter and firecrackers mark the continuation of the holiday. Inside, the house glows with softer light. Kwang helps Linda stand and walks slowly toward the bedroom. He keeps one hand steady at her waist. There is no rush in his movements. At the bedside, Linda pauses. Today felt important, she says quietly. It was. Why? He thinks for a moment. Because I didn't just visit your parents. I understood something. What? That loving you means loving where you came from. The little girl who said she was fine. The mother who still checks your face. The father who doesn't say much but watches everything. Linda's eyes glisten. And I'm not outside that anymore, he says softly. I'm part of it. She steps closer and rests her forehead lightly against his chest. His arms wrap around her carefully, mindful of the baby between them. It's not a dramatic embrace. It's steady, protective. I'm glad you're part of it, she whispers. He presses a slow kiss to her hair. They lie down, Linda turned slightly on her side, Kwang behind her, one arm curved gently around her belly. His hand rests over hers. The baby moves once more, a softer shift now. Good night, Kwang murmurs. making the room feel fuller.
Linda và Linda theo bà và cậu cháu ra nương mía dưới đất sớm. Bà vừa chặt mía vừa kể chuyện ngày xưa, dạy chặt ba hoặc buộc khung cho đẹp để bán được giá. Đồng mía cao dần, 15 đồng trở thành hy vọng cho phiên chợ. Một cây mía đổ bất ngờ khiến cả nhóm kêu rồi cười xòa vì kịp đỡ nhau. Chiều xuống, Linda buồn bã vì con rúi của mình đã biến mất. Nghi có kẻ trộm rình quanh nhà. CEO quang ghế đến lắng nghe và trấn an sự và tự sửa chiếc camera cũ trong kho, kéo dây lắp trước sân nhà để bảo vệ cô. Đêm đến, Linda nấu cơm nếp cẩm mời anh ở lại ăn. Hai người trò chuyện lòng ấm lại. Quang kể áp lực công ty, camera nháy sáng, bóng lạ thoáng qua và không biết Linda có sống sót qua được đêm nay không. Mọi người nếu thấy video hay, hãy cho mình một like, một subscribe. Cảm ơn mọi người nhé.